All right, guys, it's as simple as one, two, three. You save that, and back over to Unity, and you should see your very first. Hi there, everybody. My name is Sean, but you can call me Sienna Raccoon. So, this YouTube channel that I've just started is going to be 100% dedicated to programming and game development, mainly in Unity and with the language C Sharp. We will focus on other things, but this was the main intention for the channel. Now, main question a lot of people ask is coding hard? Is it hard to be a developer? And the answer to is, it depends. It can be hard if you're thinking of doing giant projects and stuff like games you see nowadays, Fortnite, and a bunch of other high graphic and high-end intelligent stuff. But to answer the question, is making a game hard? The answer is no. It's actually very easy and very simple to get started. So that's where I come in. I'm going to show you all of the steps you need in order to get started on your programming journey. But most importantly, the only thing you'll really need is to have fun. So there are two ways we can do this. We can go on unity.com or we could just search Unity downloads in Google. I highly recommend we just go straight to Google and just search Unity downloads. And then here we can just go to download-unity. Now they're going to prompt you with two options here. We could choose which version of Unity we wish to download, or we can download Unity Hub. I highly recommend we download Unity Hub, whereas if we download a specific version of Unity, that is the only version of Unity we will have access to. Then we would have to go through the entire process and re-downloading something if anything changes in the near future. Whereas Unity Hub handles all of that extra work for you, and all you have to do is just manage the versions basically. So we're just gonna click download Unity Hub. These are the requirements if you want to take the time and just look at what operating system you have, either Windows or Mac. The specs you're going to need, nothing too crazy. So just look at that and make sure you have everything you need. So I already downloaded this multiple times actually, so I'm not going to actually download it again. I will just click cancel, but you could click save and you can get started with that downloading. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up my File Explorer. Go straight to my downloads, and it's right here. So we're just gonna double click on that, open it up, and it's gonna ask you about the terms and services. You could read this if you want, or we could just keep going. And then it's going to show you where your file will be installed. And then once you're done saving it, make sure you save it at a place you can remember. And once you're done, you could always just click install. I already have Unity Hub installed, so I won't need to go through this. So I'm gonna just click exit, but make sure you click the install button. And once that's up and running, you could pause the video if you need, but I'm just gonna go right into my Unity Hub, which is right here on my toolbar. So this is Unity Hub. If you're just seeing this for the first time, don't worry. I know it's a lot of weird stuff going on, but we'll walk you through everything quick, fast, and in a hurry. So this very first panel is your projects panel. Every time you create a new project in Unity, this is where all of your projects will be shown. You can click straight into your project and go straight into your scene and start making your game. It's as simple as that. These other panels are for if you just want to learn something about Unity. Obviously, outside of this tutorial, you can learn about Legos. These are between documentations on the Unity website and videoed tutorials. So you could just go through, if you're a visual learner or if you're a reading learner, you could just go through these and just help yourself. FPS micro game, karting micro games, and then these are the tutorials. These are video tutorials. If you see anything that piques your interest, you could go right ahead and just check these out. Community. These are just things that are constantly being posted. They have a blog, the forum, answers, you name it, they got it here. You could get live help as well, which is really useful. So yeah, they have all of that. And this is where we'll be for now. Installs. So as you can see, I have 3 versions of Unity. Don't feel intimidated. If you want to work in these tutorials, you're gonna at least need a 2018 version of Unity. Anything 2018 and higher should be just fine for these tutorials. I will be working in Unity 2019.2.17 F1, and I'll show you how you can get these versions of Unity. So you click over here and you click add, and it should prompt you with all the versions of Unity that they currently have available, and you just pick the one you want. So when you click that, you can click next. And then here, this is where we're going to do a small bit of configuration. So for the most part, you're not going to need most of these. The only thing you truly will need is the Microsoft Visual Studio Community 2019. You're going to click to make sure that's installed. This is our IDE, our code editor. This is where we will be editing all of our code for all of our games. You don't have to click the Android build support. This is optional. So is the iOS build support. All of these are optional. This is beyond the scope of this this tutorial series. But if you want to, I can make other videos on these in the future. So after you've clicked this and anything else you may want here, you can just click next and it'll start installing. Again, I already have these, so I'm not going to actually go through the process of any of this. And once you're done with all of that and it's fully up and running, you can come over here. You can click new to start a new project. So you're going to come over to your projects panel and you're going to click new project. You're going to pick the drop down, pick the version of Unity you have. Obviously, you should have the something 2018 or higher. So I'm going to click 2019.2.17. And then this prompt box is going to come up very quickly. It's going to ask us the name of our project and where are we going to save it. So I'm going to save mine on my desktop and I'm going to name this sample project. Now, as you can see over on this side, they're giving you a variety of options of how you want to make your game. You have regular 2D. These are your templates. You have regular 2D, you have 3D, you have 3D with extras, and you have high definition RP. But we're only going to be working in 3D for right now, so make sure this is selected and highlighted, and you can click create. And while that's going on, you can pause the video, let this install. It's going to take a minute or two, and then your project should come up. Just pause the video and I'll wait for you there.
Many hours later.
So your Unity should be opened up. And you could see that this is a bunch of confusing stuff, but that's okay. We'll very briefly go over everything that's going on. Over here, we have our hierarchy, our scenes tab, game tab, Spectre tab, project tab, and console tab. These are the most important things that we need to be focused on in this area. So let's start off with the scene tab. So what the scene tab is, it's basically a level essentially. This is where we put everything in our game. We can use scenes to make main menus, levels, shops, etc., etc. We could use scenes to make all kinds of stuff. We basically just decorate a scene with a bunch of objects, cameras, lighting, and we just do it like that. So the next thing is the hierarchy. So what the hierarchy does, it basically highlights everything that's currently in our scene. So as you can see right now, we currently have a main camera and we have a directional lighting. So this is our main camera. What the main camera is, it's basically giving us an example of what the players would be seeing. This is basically the player's view right here. You can see how it stretches out like that, and this is actually a camera preview. So if we was to go into our game tab now, we would actually see how it would look from a player's perspective. And over here in the inspector, so basically what the inspector does, the inspector essentially gives us more details about an object, whether they're in our hierarchy, our scene, or in our project. So essentially what it does is it tells us all of the components that help make up that object. A component essentially defines a game object. It gives it definition and meaning. So let's look at the main camera, for example. It has 3 components, one being the transform, second one being the actual camera itself, giving it camera-like definition, and an audio listener. So what a transform is, it's basically telling us where this object is in the world, where it's facing with its rotation, and the scale. So how big or small it is. The camera essentially is the component that gives the camera definition. Like I said before, it gives us the preview of everything that's going on in the game, and it has a bunch of other stuff that we'll get into at a later time. Just wanted to give you guys a very brief understanding of that. We also have a directional lighting in our scene. You can see that in our hierarchy, it's highlighted. Second, we highlighted here, it shows in our scene view, and in our inspector, you can see it changed the directional lighting, and it has a component called lighting, and it's set to directional. You can very easily change this to spotlight, etc., etc. You have other options. But the first thing we're gonna do right now is, oh, sorry, I didn't go over the project and the console. So essentially what the project is it's holding all the folders and files for our current project. There are 2 main folders at the moment, the assets and the packages. So the packages is basically a bunch of Unity specific folders and files. Nothing we really need to get into today, but it just helps make up the Unity editor. And we have a assets folder. This is a very important folder. This is where we will be storing all of our code and our other folders for this project. This is where everything will be held. As you can see, we already have a sample folder that says scenes, and then right here it says sample scenes. So this is the scene we are currently in. You can see that right up here, sample scene. But that aside, we can move on. We also have a console. So what this console does is it's basically showing us messages directly from Unity. Unity is using this to give us messages. There are 3 main type of messages to look out for, and they are highlighted right over here. Printouts, warnings, and errors. So just printout, they're just basic Unity output displays to the screen, and it's going to show right here in this log. Warnings, what warnings are, they're basically Unity giving you messages letting you know that something is not right, something is a little out of place, but you can still build and run your game as normal. But if you get any bugs, then it'll probably come up here. And the error. So with the error, your Unity will not run and you will get a lot of red indicators. So it's very important that you look out for errors because again, with errors, you cannot run your Unity. We currently don't have anything inside Unity, so let's just put a very basic cube to just lighten it up just a little bit. So we come over here to our hierarchy, we press create. We're going to go to 3D objects, and you can see we have a list of objects we could use. For now, we'll just stick to a very basic cube, and voila, we have a cube in our scene. And if we click over to our game tab, you can see that the cube is now inside our game. It doesn't do much because we haven't given it much definition, but it's definitely there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to now create our very first script. So get you guys up and running. But before we do that, I want to set up Unity in a way that we could use our console log more than anything else right now, because our main focus is to work on our basic syntax for coding, data types, and a bunch of other stuff we'll need in order to basically bring the game to life. So here's what we're going to do first. We're going to click over to our queue. We're going to delete this. And now what we're going to do is we are going to click and drag our hierarchy. And we are going to put it on the same panel because that's how Unity works. Everything is laid out in panels. We're going to put it on the very same panel as our game and scene and asset store. So as you can see, once we put this on the same panel, it all merged and it became a lot bigger, much more space to work with. The next thing, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our project. Actually, we'll keep our projects here for now, so we can very easily switch between our project and our console and see what's going on. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to our hierarchy and we are going to create. On second thought, let's actually reconstruct how we're going to set up these panels. So the way we're going to do this is we're actually going to put our console log on the same panel as our scene, game, asset store, and hierarchy, because we want our console to be our main priority. So we're going to put this here for now. We're going to keep our projects panel here, and we're going to add the hierarchy to our projects panel. That way we could get a very clear view and understanding of our code. Our code is the most important thing, so that's why we want that up in front. And whenever we click on something in our hierarchy, we can see it in our inspector. So these are the most important things we're going to need for right now. Okay, great. So what we're going to do first and foremost, if we ever want to go back to our regular layout for Unity, we can just click up here in the top right where it says default, and we can just click default. But before we do that, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to save this current layout. We're going to give it a name, script layout. We're going to save that. So if you can see now, we are using a script layout. And if we want to go back to our default layout, all right, there we go. We're back at our default layout. But just very quickly, go right back to your script layout. All right, here we are. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here to our hierarchy, click create, go to empty. We're going to create a very clean and empty game object. As you can see over here, it says game object and there is nothing in it because this is an empty. What we're going to do is we're going to click add component and we're going to create our very first script. So we're going to name it sample script. Let's click new script, create and add. And we're just going to give Unity a couple of minutes to compile and create the script. And then they're going to add it to our empty game object. Okay, so now we should have our script here. It should be attached to your game object. If it's not attached, you can just come up here to add script and you see it's now in our list of scripts. So we could just very easily click on it just so, and there we have it. But before we go any further, I should very quickly go over all of the components that we have in Unity. I didn't show this, so that my apologies for that. We have AR, augmented reality, we have audio, we have effects, events, layouts, bunch of stuff we're not going to be using right at this moment. Again, the most important thing right now is making scripts because we want to get our coding up to par. And as you can see, we have the scripts here. This is the script we just made. It's already attached to this game object, so I'm not going to attach it again. So after you've already attached your script to your game object, let's go over to the project panel and see where it is. As you can see in our assets folder, we have our scene scripts, and now we also have our sample script. Oh, sorry, we have our scenes folder, and now we have our sample script. So Unity created it put it on our game object, and then they put it in our assets folder. So now there are two ways we could open up the script so we could start editing and coding it. We can double click here, or we could go back to our hierarchy when the game object is selected. We could just double click right in this box in here. Either one is fine, and it's going to open up in Visual Studio, which is what we're going to do right now. So I'll get back to you as soon as Visual Studio is up and running.
Many hours later.
So once you double click and open it up, your Visual Studio should be open, and it should look something very similar to this. There's a bunch of stuff going on in here we don't really understand, but it's totally fine. The most important things we're going to need for right now are these two things right here. So what are these? These are called functions, or methods as most people prefer to call them. So what a method does is it basically calls all of your code that you've initiated within these two curly braces. As you can see, they both have curly braces, so anything you would like to run inside your game, you would put in these curly braces. Now let's look at these messages that they have right above them. Start. It says start is called before the first frame update. Okay, what does this mean exactly? This means that before your game is even run, the very first frame before the update frame, start is being called, and it's initiating everything for your game to start running. And then every frame after that will be done in an update frame where it's just updating. So the start is basically initializing everything you need for your game, and then it will constantly be updated just to make sure that nothing's changed, or if anything's changed, we would see it in the program. That's essentially how start works. And then update is called once per frame. So again, it's updating your game constantly. This is the idea of how these two works, and we're going to be using them to create our game. So we have officially finished our setup for Unity and Visual Studio. I'm going to end this off by writing just a simple line of code. So let's see what happens when we write debug dot log, and then we use open parentheses, and then we're going to use open and close quotation marks. Unity automatically puts the close quotation marks. And here we can put hello world, and then you could put your name, whatever you like. I'll just put hello world for now, and then we will use a semicolon to end this line of code. Semicolons are like full stops in programming languages. You use a semicolon to end that line of code. So what we're going to do now is, as you can see here, that there is a yellow block on the side of this line of code. That means that this is where we made a change in our line of code. And basically what we want to do is we want to press Control S, and as you can see, it turned green. So that means we've saved everything that was been edited. So when you see there is a line that is yellow, that means that you've made some changes to your line of code. And when you press Control S, you save it, and Unity notifies you by putting this green bar saying that everything that you've made a change for in this code has been saved. So we can head over back to Unity, and well, there should be a little icon in the corner here letting us know that it's compiling, but I think it's already done compiling. It was just one line of code, so it shouldn't be too much to compile. So what we can do now is we can go over here to this big play button and we could run our game. Once our game is up, let's go back to our console log. And as you can see, the message that we put inside our start function is displayed on the screen. Nice. So what I want you guys to try and do is I want you guys to take that exact same line of code and see what happens when you put it in your update function. All right, I want you guys to do that for me. And then come over to Unity, press play, and then switch over to your console log and see what happens when you do that. I want you guys to leave in the comment section what happened when you did that. And yeah, we'll take it away from there in the next video.